It's the Full Court Press with Eric Frandsen and Jason Walker.
Welcome back to the to the show that we're doing right now.
Following the local teams, breaking down the biggest games with in-depth analysis and team interviews.
There's going to be much higher expectations, sense of awareness of what we bring to the table.
Join the show by calling into 435-752-1069 or text 435-339-0321. It's the Full Court Press.
Rose, ends it. Yes! Caught! Touchdown! They did it!
Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome on in to another edition of the Full Court Press. Eric Frandsen, Jason Walker. Love to hear from you as well. 435-339-0321 to join us on the Full Court Press text line. Certainly a major topic today is reacting to last night's game. Utah State victorious 68-63 over the 19th ranked San Diego State Aztecs. What did you observe? What were the highlights for you? And what did we learn about USU as they are nearing the end of the regular season? How did it affect the net rankings? And what else is going on throughout the Mountain West Conference? We've got Region 11 high school playoffs underway. First round of the girls game last night. We'll tell you how those games went. So we've got the first round of the boys playoffs tonight. So we'll tell you who's playing where and how you can follow along as well. So a lot of different things to get through. We had a very shortened show yesterday, so some of the topics we were going to cover yesterday we'll push into today, including the stat that blew our minds and our player of the week. So this is, I have to remind myself, this is for last week. I can't pick somebody who performed really well last night. That's have to be for next week's player of the week.
Well, I'm picking somebody who performed well last night, but that's also only because he also performed very well the previous week and a half. So
yeah, that's fair. That's fair.
It only reinforced my thoughts on this player.
But big win last night for USU. And let's just start with, what did you see different out of USU last night compared to when they faced San Diego State on February 3rd? How different was USU?
Well, I think just overall toughness. I mean, I think I said it on social media afterwards. Just everything that Aggie fans were wanting from this team after kind of a bit of a two-game slump where they didn't play at their best against Wyoming and then, still won but didn't play their best. And then whatever happened at Colorado State, they ended up losing by 20 points. Everything that wasn't really as present in those games was against the Aztecs. Looking at that, how physical the Aggies were in responding to San Diego State. And, and every time San Diego State made a run, Utah State responded. So you basically had tough physical defense, tough rebounding. They went, there were still a few San Diego State offensive rebounds that were probably preventable. But they were under control. I think San Diego State had like 8 for the game.
Yeah.
Which isn't bad, especially when you force a team to shoot 41%. So there was a lot of tough rebounding. Heck, I was going through and rewatching, and how many times I saw 2 Aggie players, 2 or 3, all going toward the boards, including the guards, where they're all going for it and trying to get those boards. So they were rebounding really tough, and then just as importantly, efficient offense. Now you shoot, I think it was something like 48, 49% for the game. And probably just as importantly, there weren't really any long stretches of missed shots in a row. There were times they missed 2 or 3 shots in a row. That's just playing basketball. But they didn't have maybe I should go back and double check this, but I don't think I remember there being a 1 for 8, 1 for 6, 2 for 15, those kind of stretches that can really hurt you. And, going back to defense, the Aggies forced a couple of those stretches from San Diego State, to start the game. San Diego State was 1 of 8 to start the game. And then there was another stretch similar. I think either later in the second half or even into one point in the second half. Heck, actually, in the final 4 minutes, if you exclude that meaningless three-pointer that they made pretty much right at the buzzer, the Aggies allowed 2 points in the final 4 minutes.
Yeah.
So, everything you wanted from the Aggies in this game, they pulled off.
Yeah, awesome.
They were efficient on offense. great on defense. Star players were playing like stars, and it was a good team, so you're not going to blow them out very easily. But they beat them about as well as you could hope. They were in control the entire game and didn't let up at any point.
It's always interesting to watch how teams can close out a half and then start the next half. And last night, Utah State, with about 3 minutes to go, 3.5 minutes to go, Aggies were down by 1 or maybe 2 points. It was back and forth at that point of the game, but it's about 3 minutes to go. They were trailing. They end halftime up 31-26, which doesn't seem like a ton, but they were turning the tide a little bit. They were stretching their lead, and then they come out in the first half, and over the next couple of minutes, stretch that even further and play really well and push that up to a 6-point lead over the first 3 minutes or so. So, yeah, and then San Diego State did kind of find their way back a little bit, but Utah State found ways to close out the most meaningful minutes in the best ways, and how they did it at the end of the first half, how they started the second half, and then clearly how they ended the last couple of minutes, like you said, just denying everything from San Diego State over the last 4 minutes.
Yeah, well, I think you highlight that last few minutes of the first half, first few minutes of the second half. That's where I don't know if you can say they won the game there, but that defined the game, and especially the second half. Because as you said, it goes from a back and forth game to the Aggies up 6 points. In a half that only had 30 possessions, this was an incredibly slow-paced game where the Aggies, and it makes the Aggies look worse on offense, think, they get held to 69 points. Well, they were efficient enough that if they'd played a normally paced game for them, they'd have scored 80. So, and that's kind of the idea. Here's where they still scored a decent amount of points. But, yeah, that, again, going ahead before halftime, and then, again, always starting out that second half strong is really important because, they went up by 10.
Yeah.
Early.
So they were always playing ahead, not always trying to play catch-up.
Yeah, San Diego State didn't have a lead the entire second half. And so the Aggies were able to play from ahead, and they've done fairly well playing from ahead. And San Diego State, they're much better built playing from ahead than they are, rallying. Like last year's Utah State team, they were kind of built to be able to come back from deficits. They were pretty good at that. San Diego State, not as much. They're better playing in the position Utah State was playing from. And like San Diego State was when they were at home, they were playing from ahead that entire second half. Which was obviously super advantageous for them. So pretty much every aspect of the game, the Aggies were good. Like you can nitpick a few things they weren't good at. I could find a handful. Most of them come down to a few offensive rebounds here and a couple of dumb turnovers. But aside from those little nitpicky things that Danny Sprinkle's going to go through on film, you can't really find fault with this game.
Yeah, and the play by I know a lot of the focus was about the big guys going shot for shot, Asabor and Ledee, and that was fun. Don't get me wrong. Ledee had 23, 6 rebounds. He was a force. It's a weird looking shot, but it's pretty consistent.
Yeah, I didn't realize, watching on the broadcast earlier this year, I didn't realize how weird his shot looked.
Yeah, but he's pretty consistent with it.
Yeah, it was super consistent. That's the thing is, the Aggies or the Aztecs are almost lucky they got to 63 because Ledee was super efficient in inefficient shots, which of course that's why the man's averaging 20 points per game is because he hits those you might call them bad shots. Like I guess talk about hey, that's a shot you live with. He takes a long 2-pointer, you live with that. Except when somebody who can make them is taking them, that kind of turns the tables.
Yeah.
Although I don't know what else you're going to take with Ledee. It's like you don't want him taking a 3-pointer. You don't want him driving to the basket because they wanted to keep him out of the paint.
Right.
So you're not going to hug up on him on a long 2.
Yeah, I'd live with that.
Yeah, but he was hitting them. I swear he shot 6 of 7 on those long 2s where it's just like, well, what do you do at that point? There was that stretch where he hit 3 straight, and you just see Great Osborne progressively going more and more insane. By the end, he's just throwing up his hands what am I supposed to do? But again, that's just how good Ledee is that he's just able to hit those.
But Osabor's impact on the game in so many different ways is what stood out to me. Is 17 points, not as much as Ledee's 23, but Osabor had 7 rebounds. He had 7 assists. He had 2 steals. He had 2 blocks. He was as engaged as we've seen him being an impact player over the last couple of games for USU, where teams have done a pretty effective job of negating him or getting him out of rhythm. And last night he brought it, and he was a huge impact on the floor for Utah State.
Yeah, this is he kind of admitted after in the press conference that like this is a game that he got up for, and he wouldn't. The admission was he hadn't really gotten up as much for the Wyoming game, and where like and he admitted there, it's like he got his butt kicked in that game where he wasn't going at it, but he was like super excited to go up against Jaden Ledee, and unlike the game at San Diego State where like they both put up like 15, 16 points and were there, but didn't feel like they were really impacting the game. It was guys around them. Well, guys around Jaden Ledee who were impacting the game, and then for Utah State, like nobody was really doing anything. Nobody was really efficient in that game. But yeah, even though Osabor wasn't the leading scorer, he was a big factor in that offense. Just how aggressive he was, like getting the post, and he was getting more one-on-one matchups. Like teams have doubled him a ton, and San Diego State wasn't really doing that a ton. They weren't trying to force the ball out of his hands. Sure, that if he tries to do a post roll, they have guys that always come in try and rake the ball out, and that caused some problems initially. But he was able to just go to work, and he shoots 7 of 10 from the field, draws a few fouls. Most of the fouls he drew actually weren't shooting fouls, so his foul drawing impact was kind of there, just not in the free throw shooting variety.
Yeah, but I think that while we can focus on the 2 big guys and how well they played, this game, really the fantastic player for USU was Darius Brown. Not only just how he did offensively, 25 points, finding ways to get offense so that they didn't have these long, stagnant periods of stretches without anything, but look what he did on Butler. Butler had 0 points. He effectively negated their top point guard. So Brown did a fantastic job, not just on offense, but also on defense. Perhaps one of his best overall, all-around games that we've seen.
Yeah, he's just been spectacular. When he's hitting his shots, you could call him the best point guard in the conference because he is up there in his defensive impact, and his shot making is a little more inconsistent than some of the other top point guards. But like lately, throughout of his last 4 games, he's scored at least 18 plus points. Of course, there was the one game, the one where he didn't. He had 2 points, so a little inconsistent there. But really, I think 2 of the biggest shots in this game were made by Darius Brown. One kind of underrated because it was when San Diego State went up by 3 with about 6 minutes left to go in the first half. It was 21-18. And it felt like momentum was starting to swing in the direction of San Diego State. They'd come down from being down 5 or 6 points. They were taking the lead, starting to set the tone where they were starting to play from ahead a little bit, where they'd go ahead and the Aggies would catch up. Then they'd go ahead. So they go up 21-18, and then Darius Brown hits like a 29-foot three-pointer early in the shot clock. Like he literally put it up, and I audibly just turned one of the guys sitting me on press run. It's just like, why? And then swish. And I was like, okay, he made it.
Yeah.
Because he was just on. And then, of course, the other one, everyone will probably remember that, where it was the play where Osborne misses 2 shots inside. They were trying to feed him in the post, and then Mason tips out a rebound to Darius Brown where he hits his 5th three-pointer.
Beats the shot
of
clock.
the day. Yeah, beat the shot clock. Go up by 6 points, I think it was 64-58, in an absolutely crucial stage of that game where San Diego State had basically thrown its what turned out to be their last haymaker, and the Aggies ended up responding with one of their own with a 5-point run to go back up by 6 and essentially close out the game.
435-339-0321 if you want to weigh in. Your observations of the game, what stood out to you from last night? Utah State beating San Diego State. 9315 with a couple of texts coming through. My thoughts before and after last night's game. I guess it's a gif of Dumb and Dumber. Totally redeem yourself. And then is this USU team the type that when they're on their hot seat to stay in number one in the standings plays different than when it's a better win game?
Yeah, I don't know what it is because we've seen this team lay an egg not too often. Really, it's happened a couple times where you have, at least recently, Nevada at home, Colorado State on the road. You could probably say maybe New Mexico on the road. But they've now had 3 games where they were tied for first place with the team they were playing against. At Boise State, they were tied for first place with the Broncos. They win that game on the road, right? Their biggest road win of the year.
Right.
They come back home, Stu Memorial night. Broncos again, tied for first place. Technically with the tiebreaker to be up, but still. Tied for first place. They win that one. Come into this one, this last one, tied for first place. Finally somebody else again, San Diego State. Granted, at that moment, San Diego State actually had the tiebreaker, so technically they would have been the 1 seed at that moment. But still, another first place game. Aggies win again. They are 3-0 in first place games. Direct head-to-head, winner takes sole possession of first place. I don't know what it is, but they're just getting up for these games, and maybe that's part of it. It doesn't make total sense, considering how poorly they played against Colorado State and how they kind of got beat by New Mexico. But when this team is focused, they're the best team in the Mountain West.
Yeah, absolutely.
And they're human, so they're not going to be focused every game. But I feel like they've done a good enough job. They're 10-4 in conference play.
Yeah.
So there's 4 games out of 14 where they just weren't on their game. And I think all those are double-digit losses.
Right. Yep.
So they've been off their game. There's 10 times where they've been on their game at least enough to come away with the win. So right now they're essentially the best team in the Mountain West, at least based off the standings.
8968 texting in. I was told by a San Diego State fan that it was the weather, the refs, and the altitude that won the game for the Aggies. I told him not to discount the fact that they scored 5 fewer points. As far as the refs go, I guess the refs didn't like an Aztec yelling F you to the crowd. I guess we're just rednecks.
Well, one, the weather, it's an indoor game, so that's stupid.
Yeah, weather plays no role.
The referees, bullcrap. That was one of the better refereed games.
Yeah,
I've
I thought
seen
it was
this
a very
season.
clean game.
That was about as clean a game as you're going to get from referees.
Yeah.
The only thing, in the first half, I thought they didn't call enough fouls, to be honest. There were some pretty obvious fouls I thought didn't get called, but they were even on both sides.
Right, they were letting them play.
I think I had 4 fouls that I thought off in my head. That should have been a foul, and they didn't call it.
Yeah, the foul on Sacco when he got upset and got the technical. Yeah,
well,
okay.
that foul wasn't called on Sacco. That's the thing. They didn't call it on him. They called it on Ian.
Oh.
And on the replay, Ian did foul him.
Okay.
So that was a good call. I know people got upset because they thought they called it on Sacco, but he didn't get the foul call. It was on Ian, who brought his arm down. You can see it on the replay, almost hooked the guy's arm. It was an obvious foul. So it's just, I wouldn't call it a perfect game. You can never call a game by referees perfect, but that's as good as you're going to get.
Yeah, I thought it was really solid.
And it wasn't biased one way or the other.
No, if the Aggies would have lost the game, I probably would have said the same, that this was a solid officiating game. The game was not won or lost because of some questionable calls by the refs.
Yeah. Someone saying that the refs won the Aggies game, that's just pure fans just always hitting the referees no
sore
matter
loser.
what.
Yeah.
As far as the altitude, you're going to lose at Wyoming too?
Yeah. They've been here before. I mean,
They've
not
won
this
here
is the
before,
first time they've ever been here.
And the Aggies didn't become superheroes when they go play in Viejas.
Right, because suddenly they're at lower altitude.
Yeah. It's they lost that game because the Aggies played better. That's just how it is.
Yeah. 435-339-0321. If you want to weigh in, love to get your thoughts about the game last night. Big win for the Utah State Aggies. We'll update you on the standings and other games that happened last night throughout the Mountain West Conference. Next, here on 106.9 FM, 1390 AM, The Fan.
This is Ryan at My Mattress. Life is good. Life at My Mattress is good too. Why might I say that? Because today is a good day to slay a Goliath. The other day I went into a mattress store here in Logan that has 2,500 stores across the country. I'd say that's a Goliath. We were 20% less expensive on every bed that we both offer. We may not have 2,500 stores, but we are number one in Cache Valley. Better product and better prices. Isn't it time to sleep exceptionally? Only at My Mattress.
Don't get caught without power to your home or business. This is Tyler with Golden Spike Electric. We offer Generac backup generators to keep your home or business warm, avoiding frozen pipes, loss of valuable food, or even a flooded basement. Golden Spike Electric is certified and factory trained, so you know it will be installed right and properly maintained. Contact Golden Spike Electric so you'll never be without power again. Online at gsegenerators.com. We also service other brands, Golden Spike Electric and Generac. Power you can count on.
She was there for you on your first day of school, and all those special moments since. Now, Mom needs you. When Mom or someone you love needs home health or hospice, give them the care they deserve. With core values of character, experience, and trust, see why we have been voted Best of Northern Utah. Contact Aggies today, 435-723-9000, or find us on the web at myagis.com.
Your search for copiers and printers should include Les Olson IT. There you'll find sharp copiers with powerful technology giving you one-click scanning to your office software programs. You'll find reliable HP printers that help your work groups get more done. And you'll find Ricoh graphic systems for professional quality prints. You'll find local supply delivery and peace of mind knowing you're covered by the best service in the industry.
Les Olson IT.
Spice up the winter blues with a delicious outing to Logan's first family-friendly brew pub, Prodigy Brewing. Excited to announce their success at the 2023 Tasting Alliance World Beer Competition. Prodigy Brewing won 3 of the highest medals. Prodigy invites you to try their juicy burgers, sizzling wood-fired pizzas, tasty salads, bar bites, and kids menu. Prodigy Brewing is in downtown Logan, proud to be one of Logan's vibrant downtown food and beverage destinations. Prodigy Brewing, extraordinary service and family-friendly.
When it comes to home care, it's important to know you have a choice. If you or a loved one is in need of hospice or home health services, remember that Primrose Home Care and Hospice believes in treating the patient as well as the problem. We work directly with you and your doctor to create a health plan that's catered to your needs. Our team is devoted to providing options in the freedom and safety of your own home. Visit us at primrosecare.com or call to schedule a free consultation. Primrose Home Care and Hospice, your local hospice and home health provider since 2006.
It's the Full Court Press with Eric Frandsen and Jason Walker.
Welcome back to the Full Court Press. Eric Frandsen and Jason Walker. 435-339-0321. If you want to chime in, your reactions to the game last night, Utah State beating San Diego State 68-63. And hey, for everyone who was there, great job. Spectrum was on point with Spectrum Magic. Very electric crowd. Student section was great. The chants were awesome. Finally done. Fine job.
Yeah, you know it was a good game with the Spectrum when I go up to the media room and I can feel my eardrums. It's, I don't know if ringing's the right word, but it's just like there's this, you can tell that it's been way too loud for too long. Where, it got, as I say, stupid loud 2 or 3 times in that game where it just, big runs by the Aggies in huge moments where that place just exploded. So,
we're talking about individual performances. Great Osabor was so fantastic in affecting the game in so many different ways. Darius Brown offensively and defensively. But Mason Falslev has had his ups and downs, and I liked seeing him active early. And I know he got a little bit more quiet as the game went on, but then he hit 2 crucial free throws near the end of the game, and Coach Sprinkle was as animated as perhaps I've ever seen him with somebody hitting a pair of free throws on the sidelines.
Well, he also hit a pretty massive 3-pointer where he was probably like 0 for 4. I think maybe 0 for 3 at that point because he went 1 for 5 of the game. But Aggies were up, 43-39. San Diego State was making a run, and for a guy who'd missed, his first 3 attempts, he catches it and he just calmly put it up, splash, where just calm as could be for a guy who's had some struggles with 3-point shooting, but just nailed it. And yeah, hitting 2 layups. The Aggies go up 6-0. He had 4 of those points, and yeah, obviously those 2 free throws as well, that took him from 64-60 to 66-60 with 26 seconds left, and that just about sealed the game. Because that put, you're up 2 possessions, and you just got to keep hitting free throws from there.
Yeah, and if you're San Diego State, that's the guy that you want to foul.
Yeah, that's the guy with he had probably the worst free throw percentage of anyone on the court at that point. I don't remember exactly who was on the court, but I think they'd taken Sacco out for the specific purpose, probably, of having Isaac Johnson out there as a guy who would hit free throws a little more reliably.
Yeah. Yeah, but the great overall performance by USU, getting the win, and not too many games last night. That was certainly the most exciting game on the schedule. The other games, later as I checked in on them, they were both snoozers.
Yeah, they were not exciting games in the slightest. We have this situation kind of right now in the Mountain West where there was a lot of times there'd be like 2 games, maybe per day, or at least 3 games, because you got the Tuesday, Wednesday, and then Friday, Saturday. You'd get like 3 games in one of those windows. They were good. 2 or 3 games, they were good. And now we're getting like 1.
Yeah.
I don't know if there's just been this shift in the schedule where everyone is playing each other a bunch and now they're not. But yeah, it was not a particularly great. And today is hit and miss, with 1 likely hit and I think some other things. There are 2 or 3 games.
Well, tonight it's Colorado State at New Mexico, 8 o'clock on CBS Sports Network. And then at 9 on FS1, it's UNLV at Air Force.
Yeah, sorry, I'm not staying up for that one. Unless Air Force starts kicking the tar out of UNLV, then I will pick it up and watch. Just because, I don't know, just a laugh.
Yeah, they beat them last time.
Beat them by like 20.
Yeah, UNLV was so unprepared for that game.
It was like Air Force's largest margin of victory in conference play ever. I think they were posting about that after the game.
It was so embarrassing for the Rebels.
And it is still Air Force's only win in conference play. They'd be winless. That's how utterly baffling that loss is for UNLV. Do you think it was baffling the Aggies lost to Nevada as bad as they did at home on Spectrum Magic night? Take that and multiply it by about 1,000, and that's what that UNLV loss to Air Force was.
The other games that did take place last night, they were snoozers. Boise State beating San Jose State 82-50, and then Nevada running away from Wyoming 76-58.
Yeah, Boise State is kind of in a weird situation because I was doing my Mountain West Watch article and I was adding up the I kind of moved my average computer rankings into that article, and Boise State. So keep in mind, there's been 3 game windows since that, because I was a little late. Boise State jumped 11 spots in average ranking. And the 3 games that, between my updates were a loss to Utah State by 19. And they played Fresno State and San Jose State. And they jumped 11 spots. Mind you, they, beat San Jose State and Fresno State by 25 points each. But
yeah,
really?
Odd.
That high?
Yeah, they moved 7 spots in the net after beating San Jose 32 points. Utah State beats San Diego State, and
they didn't move at all.
There's no movement whatsoever.
Yeah,
San Diego State didn't move either.
I get they're in a more crowded area, although San Diego State not moving is a little more questionable. I can get not moving up because you're in a crowded section of the net, and there's not a whole lot of room for moving up. But San Diego State not moving down is interesting, but still it just goes to show you that style points matter.
They do. That's what that illustrates to all of us, is that you blow out an opponent in conference play, and it's going to reward you for offensive and defensive efficiency.
Yeah, it doesn't matter if the team is terrible. The net will love you. Utah State's benefited from that in the past. They benefited from that a lot last year, benefited a little this year. And I think part of the reason they haven't moved up as much in the net is because they've they did have a dominant win over Boise. That did boost them a little bit, but they're not getting a lot of help from their most recent games because they're not blowing teams out, and of course they've lost some games. So.
Got a couple texts coming through. 9315. Would you consider the Mountain West tournament a neutral site game? If so, what Mountain West teams have done the best at neutral site games? Yes, it would be a neutral site.
Yeah, you can.
Even though it's on UNLV's floor, it is considered a neutral site.
Yeah. Although when UNLV plays, it's actually a home game for them. I think I think the selection committee did something where there was some designation from somebody that changed it to if UNLV is playing at home, or playing in the Mountain West tournament, it counts as a home game for them. But yeah, it's essentially a neutral site game, unless you're playing UNLV. In which case, it can be a lot closer to a road game.
But to the other question, what teams have done the best at neutral site games? I'd have to do the research on that.
I'd have to look it up. And the other problem with that is you'd have such a small sample size. The Aggies have played well in neutral site. They're undefeated in neutral site games.
Yep.
They went 3-0 at the Cayman Islands Classic, and they
beat San Francisco.
Neutral site, quote unquote,
Delta Center
at home, a pseudo home game. So really, you got that 3-game sample size, but they didn't play the toughest teams. Akron's a good team, and they scraped by a close one there. And Stephen F. Austin, who was the other team they played? Oh, Marshall, that's who it was.
Yeah.
Neither of those teams are having a good year, at least last I checked on them.
Yeah, Marshall's down in quad 4.
Yeah, and Stephen F. Austin's dropped off quite a bit. So
they're a quad 3.
Yeah. So the Aggies have played well in neutral site games, and it will be really interesting to see those Mountain West tournament games because you have a lot of these situations where, look at a team like San Diego State where they're kind of the emblematic of this phenomenon where they are blowing out basically everyone at home. Think of the top 6 teams, so 5 fellow top 6 teams. They're 4-0 at home. They haven't played Boise at home, but they're now 0-5 on the road, and their 4 wins all by double digits, an average of 13.
Yeah, that's bonkers.
But they can't get a win on the road.
Very different for them at home versus road.
Yeah, but they're not the only one. New Mexico's had that happen to them.
Yeah.
Utah State's had it happen a little bit. Nevada, Colorado State. So they're all splitting home and away. Throw them in a neutral site. What happens? That's going to make for quite a fight in the Mountain West tournament. It's probably going to be the best Mountain West tournament we've had in years.
Let's see who Braden T. Clark at Braden T. Clark put this together on the Twitter or X.
The X Twitter.
Winning on the road against the top 7 is going to crown the Mountain West Conference champ. Here's how everyone has done. This is interesting. Boise is 2-2. Colorado State is 0-4. Nevada is 2-2. New Mexico's 1-3. San Diego State's 0-4. Utah State is 2-3. UNLV is 2-2. So just how they face each other, and we talked about that. Maybe
is that every road game? Because
that's just how they've done against each other, not really home or away. So this just says winning on the road against the top 7.
I was confused because I was trying to think. I was thinking top 6 because if you say top 7, then yeah, you have UNLV.
You include UNLV.
State. So that's what's confusing to me.
As you illustrated, San Diego State is probably, and Colorado State, both 0-4.
Yeah, well, San Diego
struggling on the road, but
San
very
Diego State's
dynamic
0-5 now. That's because they've lost to Boise, Nevada, Colorado State, Utah State, and New Mexico.
Yeah.
So 1 game out of date there. He probably sent it yesterday.
Yeah, but it may be frustrating if you're a Utah State fan to see some of those losses happen. Honestly, this is the best case scenario for the Mountain West to secure that 6 teams can get into the NCAA tournament.
Yeah, nobody's been dumb. Last year, San Diego State just pretty much beat everybody. They obviously picked up a few losses, but basically beat everyone. So they were, ascendant, and it probably ended up knocking some teams out. Of course, it didn't help that UNLV and New Mexico just kind of fell off the planet during conference play. Nobody's really done that, and they've started to beat up on each other. Look at Nevada. Nevada, they're if they don't win at Utah State and win that home game against San Diego State, they're probably not considered in the tournament right now. But because, as teams, nobody gets too high. Like every time Utah State's had to fend off challengers for that number 1 spot in the standings 3 times. Because every time they get alone, they get knocked off by somebody, and they have to battle up again. And that team that beats them usually benefits, like in Nevada, San Diego State, or San Diego State's probably one of them, New Mexico. Whenever somebody at the top's getting too high up, they get beat and they fall back down. And it raises the teams that are, like Nevada, they fell all the way to 8th, but they climbed back with some big wins.
Yeah, and just, generally speaking, another one of somebody else kind of on the same topic at Field of 68 Freak says Mountain West top 6 head-to-head. This is home and away. Boise State is 4-3. New Mexico is 4-3. Colorado State is 4-4. Utah State is 4-4. San Diego State is 4-5. Nevada is 3-4.
Yeah, this is when we were going through the idea of a 6-bid Mountain West, like this is exactly what we were talking about. What they'd have to do. They'd all have to split between each other, and essentially they are. Utah State has split with San Diego State. They've swept Boise State. Split with Colorado State. They only get one against Nevada, so they lost that one. We'll see what happens against New Mexico. But it'd probably help the Mountain West if Utah State lost to New Mexico. So, Eric, for the good of the conference, are you going to root for New Mexico?
No. I do have exceptions.
For the good of the Mountain West.
8968 texting in. Rod Tueller has said in the past, it's not how many free throws you miss, it's when you miss them.
Yeah, that's usually a big one.
Good point.
Because the Aggies did miss some free throws early on. Great Osborne misses a couple, and I don't remember what did they shoot.
Aggies were
11 and 15.
11 and 15.
That's not too bad.
Yeah.
But yeah, they didn't miss them when it counted. Granted, they didn't take that many trips to the line late in the game anyway. It was really basically just, I guess, Mason, and then for some reason they fouled Darius Brown with 7 seconds, so he went to the line. But those didn't matter anyway. So,
all right, we've got to take another time out here on the Full Court Press. We'll continue to break down what happened last night between Utah State and San Diego State. Let you weigh in on it. Other things that went on in the Mountain West Conference and the effect on the standings and the net rankings and things like that. Also, big meetings going on today about the future of the college football playoff. It hasn't even started yet in its new form, and they're already talking about tweaking it and doing it different. So we'll discuss that next on the Full Court Press.
Security. It's the most precious thing you can give your home, especially if it's guaranteed. No cheap locks, no weak keys, no inadequate hardware, just the expertise and precision and security. Beezer Lock and Key believes there's no place like a safe home and no home safer than one secured by them. It may seem they only sell locks and keys, but what they really sell is peace of mind. Search Beezer Lock and Key or go to 4th North and 1st West and just add confidence.
It's our President's Day sale at the Sportsman on Main Street. Don't miss this sale. All winter outerwear for men and women is 40 to 60% off. All clothing has been marked down. Skis, boots, and bindings are up to 50% off. Ski poles and ski goggles are half price. Insulated shoes and boots are half price. There is still lots of winter left, so get your new gear at the Sportsman and get out in the snow. It's our President's Day sale, up to 60% off, going on now, only at the Sportsman on Main Street in downtown Logan.
Do you have a fireplace or stove that isn't working right? Don't wait until winter to get it fixed. Get ahead of the game and get your fireplace or stove serviced now by the best of Northern Utah winter, Advanced Fireplace and Stove. They service everything from Quadra-Fire pellet stoves to heat and glow fireplaces. Get a 20% discount on your next service and labor when you mention this ad. Call 752-7272 or go to advancedfireplaceandstove.com. Advanced Fireplace and Stove, where comfort is their business.
Are you ready for what Mother Nature has in store this winter? Don't let unexpected collisions put a dent in your plans. Accidents happen, and Mako, America's auto body shop, is here to help. They specialize in collision repair, offering quick service without compromising on quality work. They'll have you back behind the wheel in no time, so you can stay ahead of impending bad weather. trust Logan Mako for top-notch collision repair. Conveniently located on 10th West in Logan. 24/7 towing available.
The Best of Northern Utah contest is back, presented by the Cater Shop Menswear Store. We're asking each of you to think about those special places that make our town unique and nominate them now at bestofnorthernutah.com. Is there a quaint cafe where you love to start your day, or a local shop that always goes the extra mile? Nominate them now. Maybe your medical professional went above and beyond, or a mechanic saved your bacon. Nominate all of them now at bestofnorthernutah.com.
Best of Northern Utah.
The Aggies, Jazz, high schools, even the Pee Wee's T-ball team. It's the Full Court Press on Sports Talk Radio, The Fan.
Welcome back to the Full Court Press. Eric Frandsen, Jason Walker, 106.9 FM, 1390 AM, The Fan. If you want to weigh in, we always love to hear from you as well. 435-339-0321 on the Full Court Press text line. One thing that we didn't get to do yesterday, because we had a really shortened show, was do the stat that blew our minds and also highlight our player of the week. So we want to do that now here on the Full Court Press, even though it's on a Wednesday. Normally these things are done on Tuesdays. But, Jason, let's start with the stat.
Let's take a look at the numbers. It's the stat that blew our minds.
He did what?
On the Full Court Press.
Wow, that blew my mind.
You got a stat that stood out to you?
Yeah, it goes back to something that actually showed up in our pick six over the weekend. That was 3-pointers. Just more specifically from the Eastern Conference All-Stars, where they hit 42 as a team. Like 42, at least at one point, I don't know if it's the same these days, but like 42 is like a not atypical number of field goals just in general to hit in an NBA game. But to hit 42 threes, like you hit 23s in a game, that's like your season high as a team. To more than double that?
126 points from 3-pointers alone.
Yeah, like that's more than most teams will score in a game. It's just ridiculous. So that probably is about as many field goals as you will typically. You usually shoot, making around 40, and you shoot about 90. And they shot 42 of 97 on just 3-pointers. That's like, that's basically, pickup basketball, where everyone, in that case, everyone thinks they can make a three, and they shoot like 16%. These guys actually made them.
Yeah, the skill level in the NBA is such that just about anybody can pull up and take that shot and make it.
They're also all like wide open though, so they're basically just messing around threes, and so they shoot 43% on 97 attempts. You can almost do the percentage in your head. That's how many 3-pointers they almost took 100 3-pointers.
Well, my stat is related, because I combined the West and the East. 67 3-pointers made in the All-Star game, and contrast that with only 3 fouls called.
Who actually fouled in this game? To be honest, those were probably a lot of the fouls in the All-Star game are you commit a foul so that subs can happen.
Right, yeah.
So they just, in the backcourt, they go up and they hug the guy.
Just go give somebody a bear hug.
Yeah, and then they call a foul, and then somebody else can come in. Because otherwise, when one of their 200 3-point attempts goes out of bounds, nobody's hustling enough for the rebound. They can sub people in. But that's absurd.
That's bonkers. All right, and then we also get a chance to highlight Player of the Week for something that they did in their various sport.
Time to see who the real MVP is.
If you have a good game, your game is going to say that. You don't have to say it.
Puts a lot of cool things in perspective anytime you're the first time doing something.
It's the Full Court Press Player of the Week.
Let's go!
All right, who is your Player of the Week, Jason?
Darius Brown. And I know you don't want to include necessarily last night's game where he had 25 points, but 18 points against Wyoming, 18 against Boise State, 24 against Wyoming. I know he had only the 2 against Colorado State, but you look over his last 3 games. Even though that stretch includes the game where he went 1 for 9, he's shooting 57% from the field, the same percent, actually an identical percentage from three. So 57% overall, 57% from three. Hasn't missed a free throw in that stretch. And he's also averaging 5.5 rebounds, 4.5 assists, only 1.8 turnovers. This guy he's playing out of his mind right now. And defensively, I said, I list off those stats, then arguably his defense was even better than his offense at times.
Yeah. Unfortunately, we don't have some of those defensive statistics.
Yeah, he averaged 0.8 steals, but his defensive impact isn't measured by the number of steals he gets.
Right. For me, my player of the week, I went with Caitlin Clark, the women's basketball player from the University of Iowa. Last week, she scored 49 points versus Michigan. That was on Thursday, and in doing so, she became the all-time leading scorer in NCAA Division I women's basketball. She's been great for the sport and has got a lot of eyeballs on women's basketball because of how she plays, and her impact on the sport has been pretty crazy to see what kind of extra attention women's basketball is receiving because of her.
Hasn't she also broken Pistol Pete's record? I know it's men's basketball, but
I'm not sure on that one.
I think she has. She was either really close. Oh no, she's not actually. Oh, she's actually she's like 100 points off. I know she was on pace to do it. Yeah, so she could break the all-time NCAA scoring record. Granted, Pete did it in 3 years. Of course, I think Caitlin Clark, I heard that she could come back for another year.
Yeah, I think she's got another year of eligibility because of COVID.
And that happens a lot more in women's basketball, especially in the NIL era, where she may very well stay for another year and become the first 4,000-point scorer, which the only other player in history who could have done that was Pistol Pete himself, and he would have only needed 4 years, but he couldn't play as a freshman on the varsity team. Supposedly, he averaged like 50 points a game on the freshman team.
Oh, the freshman team.
Because, he's that good.
No one could keep up with him.
He could have played as a freshman, but he couldn't.
Right. There were rules back then.
Yeah.
We got to take another time out. When we come back, more of your texts reacting to the game last night for Utah State. If you've got a stat that blew your mind or a player of the week that you'd like to recognize, let us know. 435-339-0321.
Hi, this is Shani Arby from Cache Valley Bank. I've been with Cache Valley Bank for 26 years and have enjoyed helping my customers reach their financial goals, and I hope to do the same for you. I work with a great team that is dedicated to providing you with the personalized attention you deserve. Stop by our Center Street branch or give me a call and let me show you what opening an account with us can do for you. I look forward to meeting you. Cache Valley Bank, member FDIC.
It's never too late or too cold to get rid of that old vehicle. Now is the time to earn extra cash by calling DD Auto and Salvage. Let them pay you for that junk vehicle. DD Auto and Salvage makes it so easy and fast to get rid of your junker vehicles by paying you the most money possible. Pickup is available. If you have metal, DD Auto and Salvage in Logan wants to pay you today. Call 787-1204.
That's 787-1204 today.
See store for details.
This is Nate Lamson with Valley Office Systems, your home team when local matters. Valley Office Systems is your local provider for all things office, copiers, printers, furniture, and document management. Proudly serving Cache Valley since 2007. Visit valleyofficesystems.com.
Wouldn't it be nice to lose a minimum of 2 to 5 inches of fat, just like that? At Bell Medical, with our uniquely patented FDA-cleared procedures, we are able to permanently remove that stubborn hormonal fat that almost seems impossible to get rid of. And we are able to do it in a way that is so precise. We can guarantee a minimum of 2 to 5 inches of fat loss after one visit with us.
Schedule your free consultation at our bountiful clinic at bellmedical.com and let us make your dreams a reality.
Store-wide President's Day savings continue at Al Sporting Goods. Keep your hands warm with gloves up to 70% off from DeKine, Scott, and Outdoor Research. Al Sporting Goods has hundreds of beanies, only $4.99. Select winter boots and slippers from Columbia, Sorel, and Teva up to 50% off. Style and warmth for mom, dad, and the kids. Don't miss out on the winter hard goods sale. You save up to 50% off. Score deals like the Dalbello Veloci ski boot for only $129.99 and Oakley Target Line ski goggles for only $49.99. The President's Day sale continues at Al Sporting Goods. Every sport, every season.
Check this out.
This is The Herd.
You're excited. I'm excited.
With Colin Cowherd.
So why did San Francisco lose? I'll throw out to you why they lost. Special teams and bad luck. Kansas City fumbled 5 times, recovered 4. Then you throw in Dre Greenlaw got hurt running on the field.
This is The Herd. Weekdays from 10 to 1 on Sports Talk Radio, 106.9 FM, 1390 AM. The Fan. They never could play it, but they sure can talk about it. Eric Frandsen and Jason Walker on the Full Court Press.
Napa features all the best brands: Croyle, Amsoil, Schaefer, BG, Seafoam. So if you're a do-it-yourselfer kind of person, the locally owned Napa Auto Parts store is a good place to know. And there's 5 different locations from Preston to Providence, voted gold winner in the Best of Northern Utah contest. A couple of texts coming through here on the Full Court Press text line, 2603. How about the Aggies? That was a nice win last night. Mountain West gets 6 teams this year. It's certainly looking like that.
Yeah, it is. Like the latest, you look at Bracket Matrix, and they've got 6 teams in right now. It was updated yesterday, so that was even before the Aggies beat San Diego State. Granted, that's not going to impact tournament odds at this point because, San Diego State's about as much of a lock as you can be at this point. Sitting up there. It's funny to see them there sitting around as like a 5 seed, and then that, the selection committee submits their, that top 16 they had, and the Aztecs were a 4 seed, and they're also just bam.
Yep. They're up in the 4 seeds now.
Then you also look at the number 1 seeds, where before there's they're not necessarily set. There's a little bit of disagreement, and then bam, everyone has the exact same 4 number 1 seeds all at once.
Yes.
So it's kind of funny to see how that impacted the tournament, the bracketologist community, if you will.
Right. The San Diego State is according to Bracket Matrix, at a 4, Colorado State at 6, Utah State at 7, New Mexico at a 9, Boise at 10, and Nevada at 11.
And they're pretty much all like in most of the brackets. There's a couple of outliers. There's one bracket that doesn't like Utah State. Now, if there's any solace, it's one of the least accurate brackets. You look back at their history and how bad they've been, they're like almost at the bottom. So take solace in that the one bracket that doesn't, seem to like the Aggies very much is a terrible prediction metric.
But there are a few that, at least one, has Utah State as a 5 seed.
Yeah, that's a little high. Isn't that CBS?
Yeah, that's Jerry Palm.
Yeah.
CBS.
The unfortunate thing is he's not very accurate either. So I don't know if you should. I don't know if you want to take one stock into that either. But and it's weird because I think Jerry Palm usually doesn't like the Mountain West very much, doesn't he?
Yeah, he hasn't really been necessarily a friend of the Mountain West.
Yeah.
8968 texting in. I can never see myself rooting for New Mexico unless they're playing BYU. Then I need to think about it. No love lost.
Well, you said Eric's going to be rooting for New Mexico for the good of the Mountain West.
No.
Put it in paper. Put it in writing.
But some big games tonight. New Mexico hosting Colorado State. New Mexico's favored by 8.5 in this one.
8.5? I saw 7.5 against Colorado State.
Yeah.
Did it move? It was 7.5 like when we started the show.
What I'm looking at right now.
Is it on ESPN? Or?
Yes, this is Bet ESPN.
Okay, then it's moved. It was 7.5 for the start of the show. I saw it.
Wow.
It's moved a point since we started this show.
Interesting. Of course, we just said earlier, Colorado State, they're 0-4 against the top teams on the road.
It's bonkers because you have a ranked team in the Associated Press poll, and they're 8.5
the other team is favored.
Dogs.
Yeah,
like being the team that's being favored over a ranked team, even as an unranked team, that happens. I mean, it happened with Utah State, San Diego State, where Utah State was favored slightly. And you can have that, especially when a team's like close to being ranked or, when they're at home and all that. But like 8.5? That's absurd.
That's a lot.
Granted, New Mexico is 34th nominally in the poll, but like still like that much is just absurd. But it does speak to just how dang good the Pit is as far as its impact on games.
Yeah. what's his name? Jerry Goodman? Jeff Goodman.
Jeff Goodman.
Jeff Goodman. I don't know where Jerry came from.
It's okay. I called Dan Hurley Greg earlier today, talking about Coach of the Year conversations. Like, is it Greg Hurley?
Jeff Goodman was in the house last night to take in the spectrum. He flew into Utah and visited with a lot of coaches yesterday, but sat in and watched the Aggie game in person. It sounds like he's headed to the New Mexico game tonight.
Yeah, he's pretty impressed with the spectrum. I know he spent a lot of time to stand up and film in the crowd, just with how electric it was in that game. So it certainly left a good impression on Jeff there.
Yes. Coming up next hour, we'll get into high school basketball. We've got high school playoffs underway. First round of the girls' playoffs started last night. So I'll update you on the scores there and what happens next for some of those teams. Boys' first round begins tonight. So we'll let you know how to follow along with those games, what their paths look like going forward, and what happens next. And then we'll also get into these new discussions about changing the college football playoff before it even gets going as an expanded format. They're having discussions today about updating and changing how it's done. And we'll see how that could potentially affect schools like Utah State and the Mountain West Conference. That's all next hour here at 106.9 FM, 1390 AM, The Fan.
I'm Dan Patrick, and this is Above the Noise. It's easy to think we have a good grasp on who will compete for an NBA title this season. We've seen each team play over 50 games, which is a good sample size. That's not always the case, though. The NBA, a lot different than the NFL. Not every game truly matters, and we often see teams take advantage of that to start the year. But that could change in the final stretch of the season. Both conferences unusually competitive. The 76ers currently in the middle of the East with Joel Embiid out. The Western Conference, a little different, has a clear top four, but the middle seeds are still up for grabs, and normally top teams aren't too worried about seeding. But between the parity we've seen and the league's new minimum for NBA awards, teams and players may be looking for an advantage. So who knows? Maybe we see a little more commitment from the players and the teams trying to vie for that top seed in 2024 in the East and the West. I'm Dan Patrick, and this is Above the Noise.